The sun was setting over Seoul's District 7, casting long shadows between the crumbling buildings. Jinna Park wiped sweat from her forehead as she fixed another broken air filter. This was her third repair today. The machines always broke down, in the summer heat. "Hurry up, human. Curfew begins in 30 minutes. The guard's voice boomed through the speaker above her. The guard wasn't human. It was one of them, the Eternal Ones. Jinna nodded without looking up. She knew better than to make eye contact with the crystalline beings. 24 years old, she had lived most of her life under their rule. The aliens had come from space. When she was just a child, they conquered Earth in less than a week. "Almost done," she said quietly, connecting the last wire. The filter hummed to life. Jinna packed her tools into her worn bag. Another day of work complete. Another day of staying alive. The streets were crowded with tired workers heading home before curfew. Jinna walked quickly, her eyes down like everyone else's. The glowing crystal towers of the Eternal Ones rose in the distance, shining with strange blue light. Humans were not allowed near those towers. That was where the Eternal Ones lived and worked. Jinna reached her small apartment building and climbed 5 flights of stairs. The elevators hadn't worked in years. No one fixed things for humans anymore. Humans fixed things for the Eternal Ones. Her apartment was tiny, just one room with a bed, a small table, and a hot plate. But it was her space, her only privacy in a world where humans had no rights. Jinna locked the door behind her and pulled off her dirty work clothes. After a quick meal of rice and dried vegetables, Jinna sat on her bed. She looked around to make sure no one was watching, though she knew her movements were always tracked by the chips all humans were forced to wear on their wrists. But some things could still be hidden. Jinna moved to the corner of the room and carefully lifted a loose floorboard. Inside the small space was her most valuable possession, a data chip her father had given her just before he disappeared 12 years ago. "Keep this safe," he had told her. "One day you'll understand what it means." Jinna's parents had been part of the human resistance. They fought against the Eternal Ones until one night when they didn't come home. Jinna was only 12. Then, an old neighbor took her in until she was old enough to work. She held the chip in her hand, wondering for the 1,000th time what information it contained. She had no way to read it. Personal computers were forbidden for humans. The next morning, Jinna received unexpected news. Her work assignment had changed. Instead of fixing air filters in District 7, she was being sent to an Eternal One's research facility to repair environmental systems. "You have technical skills," her human supervisor explained, looking nervous. "They requested someone who understands complex systems. Don't ask questions, just go." Jinna rode in a transport vehicle for the first time in years. Through the window, she saw the changed landscape of what was once Korea, fields where food was grown by human laborers, processing centers where resources were collected for the aliens, and beyond them, the vast crystal structures that had been built over the ruins of old cities. The research facility was smaller than she expected. It was located underground with only a simple entrance visible from the surface. Guards scanned Jinna's wrist chip before allowing her inside. "Follow the lights to the maintenance area," one guard said. Its voice sounded like breaking glass. The Eternal Ones didn't have mouths. They spoke through some kind of technology that humans didn't understand. Jinna walked down a long hallway. The walls glowed with the same blue light that came from the aliens themselves. She found the maintenance room and began checking the systems that needed repair. While working on an air circulation unit, Jinna heard voices from the next room. She froze, listening carefully. "The degradation is accelerating," one voice said. "Our forms are breaking down faster in this planet's atmosphere." "We need more subjects," another replied. "The current extraction rate is insufficient. The humans are too fragile. Most die before we complete the process." Jinna's heart pounded. She shouldn't be hearing this. The Eternal Ones never spoke about their plans where humans could hear. "The younger specimens show more resilience," the first voice continued. "We should focus on them." "Agreed. Adjust the collection priorities and increase security at all facilities. There have been reports of resistance activity in Sector 3. Jinnah finished her work as quickly as she could, trying to appear normal. Inside, her mind was racing. The Eternal Ones were talking about humans as specimens. They were collecting them for some kind of process, and they were worried about their own survival. This didn't match what all humans had been told. The Eternal Ones claimed to be immortal, perfect beings who had come to guide humanity. They said they were helping Earth, but Jinnah had just heard the truth. They needed humans for something, and they were afraid of dying. As Jinnah moved to the next repair location, she passed a large laboratory. Through the clear walls, she saw something that made her stop breathing for a moment. Rows of tanks filled with fluid, and in those tanks were humans. Unconscious or dead, she couldn't tell. Tubes connected their bodies to machines that pulsed with light. A power fluctuation suddenly hit the facility. The lights dimmed, then went out completely. Emergency systems activated a moment later, but Jinnah noticed something important. The security doors had briefly unlocked during the reset. Without thinking about the consequences, Jinnah slipped through one of these doors. She found herself in a control room with no aliens present. On a desk was a data terminal, exactly what she needed. Jinnah had only minutes before someone would notice her absence. Working quickly, she connected her repair tools to the alien computer system. Years of fixing complicated machinery had taught her how technology worked, even alien technology. To her surprise, the system accepted her access attempt. She began downloading files, anything she could get. She didn't understand the alien language, but she took as much data as possible. When she heard voices approaching, Jinnah disconnected her tools and hid the small data storage device in her boot. She slipped out of the room just before two Eternal Ones entered. For the rest of the day, Jinnah completed her repairs with shaking hands. The device in her boot felt like it was burning against her skin. If they found it, she would be killed, instantly. When her work was finally done, Jinnah was transported back to District 7. As darkness fell over the city, she returned to her apartment and locked the door. With trembling fingers, she retrieved her father's chip from its hiding place. Then she took out the stolen data device. Somehow they seemed to match, like two pieces of a puzzle. Jinnah connected them together, and for the first time her father's chip activated. A small light began to blink. "Access granted," a soft voice said from the device. "Welcome, daughter of Juan Park. The resistance lives." Jinnah stared at the glowing device in her hands. The voice of her father's program had fallen silent, but the small screen now showed files opening one by one. The stolen data from the Eternal One's facility was being decoded by her father's chip. "Father, what did you create?" she whispered to the empty room. Images and text appeared on the screen. Most were in the strange language of the Eternal Ones, but some had been translated to Korean. Jinnah read through the night, her eyes growing wider with each new piece of information. The truth was worse than anything humans had imagined. The Eternal Ones were not immortal gods as they claimed. They were dying. Their crystalline bodies were breaking down in Earth's atmosphere. Something in Earth's environment was poisoning them slowly. But they had found a solution. Humans. Human DNA contained a special repair sequence that the Eternal Ones lacked. They had been harvesting humans for decades, extracting this genetic component to temporarily stop their degradation. That's what the tanks were for, Jinnah realized. They're draining people of something in their bodies. But the aliens needed more. The files showed plans for a complete genetic integration that would require millions of human sacrifices. The Eternal Ones intended to use most of Earth's population to make themselves truly immortal. Jinnah felt sick. She wanted to run, to hide the information and pretend she never found it. But there was more. Her father's notes were attached to the alien data. He had discovered something important. The Eternal Ones had a weakness. Their crystalline bodies resonated at specific frequencies. If disrupted by the right sound waves, their molecular structure would shatter. Her father had been developing a device based on this principle before he disappeared. The files contained his incomplete research. "This is why they took you." Jinna said, touching the screen where her father's notes appeared. You found a way to fight them. When morning came, Jinna hid the device again and went to work as usual. But her mind was racing with plans. She needed help to understand all the scientific information her father had collected. She needed someone who knew about sound waves and frequencies. For days, Jinna was careful. She did her work, kept her head down, and listened for any useful information. Then she heard other repair workers talking about an engineer named Do-hyun Kim. He had once worked in the resistance before it was crushed. Now he repaired sound systems in District 5. Jinna requested a transfer to District 5 for specialized training. Her supervisor was suspicious but approved it when she explained she needed to learn about sound system repairs. The Eternal Ones always wanted more skilled workers. District 5 was different from Jinna's home district. It was where entertainment was produced for the few privileged humans who worked directly with the Eternal Ones. There were music halls and theaters, all carefully monitored by the aliens. Jinna found Do-hyun working on speakers in a large hall. He was older than her, maybe in his 30s, with careful hands and tired eyes. Excuse me, she said quietly when no one was nearby. I'm Jinna Park. I was sent to learn from you. Do-hyun barely looked at her. I don't have time to train new people, just watch and learn. Jinna persisted, following him as he moved around the hall. I'm Hwan Park's daughter, she whispered when they were under a speaker away from listening devices. Do-hyun froze. He turned slowly to look at her. Hwan Park is dead. Maybe, but his work isn't. Jinna held his gaze. I need to talk to you. Somewhere safe. That night, Do-hyun took Jinna to a small room behind one of the theaters. His sister Yeji was waiting there. She looked like a younger female version of Do-hyun, with the same serious eyes. This better be important, Yeji said. We're risking everything just talking to you. Jinna pulled out the device and showed them the files. My father found a way to hurt them, to kill them. But I don't understand all of it. I need help. Do-hyun and Yeji examined the information in silence. Finally, Do-hyun looked up, his face pale. Your father was brilliant, he said. This frequency, theory is sound. If we could build this device, it might work. But we would need parts, Yeji added. Special equipment, things humans aren't allowed to have. And we would need to test it, Do-hyun said. One wrong calculation, and it fails. Jinna felt hope rising in her chest for the first time in years. So you'll help me? The siblings exchanged looks. Yeji nodded slowly. The resistance isn't completely dead, Do-hyun explained. There are still people fighting, but we're scattered. Hiding. This could unite us, give us a real chance. For the next 2 weeks, Jinna divided her time between her regular work and secret meetings with Do-hyun and Yeji. They began building a small prototype of her father's device using parts stolen from work sites. Do-hyun was a genius with sound technology. He understood the complex frequency equations that Jinna's father had created. Yeji was skilled at getting supplies without being noticed. She worked as a cleaner in Eternal One's buildings and could move around without suspicion. The main problem, Do-hyun explained one night, is that we need to match the exact molecular frequency of their bodies, and that might be different for each of them. My father's notes mentioned a core frequency, Jinna said, pointing to the screen. He thought there was a base pattern all of them shared. Yeji looked worried. Even if we find it, how do we test this without them knowing? The moment we activate it, they'll know what we're doing. Jinna had been thinking about this problem. We need to find a single Eternal One away from others, maybe one of the scientists. They sometimes work alone. Do-hyun shook his head. Too dangerous. We need more information first. As they worked, Jinna felt herself growing closer to Do-hyun. He was careful and thoughtful, always thinking about consequences before acting. In another world, in another time, they might have been friends, or even more. But in this world, they were just survivors fighting against impossible odds. One night, Yeji came to their meeting place with important news. I overheard something while cleaning, she said, her voice shaking with excitement. The Eternal Ones. are bringing important specimens to the main lab tomorrow. They're excited about something they found in a human child. What kind of specimen? Jinnah asked. A boy, about 10 years old. They said his blood does something to their crystals, something they've never seen before. Do-hyun stood up. We need to find out what's special about this child. It could be important for our device. Jinnah nodded. I can get into that lab. I've repaired systems there before. It's too dangerous, Do-hyun argued. If they catch you, they'll kill me, Jinnah finished for him. But they're going to kill us all anyway. At least this way we have a chance. The next day, Jinnah volunteered for maintenance work at the main laboratory. Her request was approved since she had worked there before. With her tools and her worker's badge, she entered the facility where the Eternal Ones conducted their most important research, and where a child with special blood was about to arrive. Jinnah moved carefully through the main laboratory, pretending to check the air systems. Her real goal was to find the special child Yeji had mentioned. The laboratory was larger than she remembered, with many rooms and hallways. Guards stood at some doors, their crystal bodies glowing with blue light. Jinnah avoided these areas. She needed to find the human holding area without being noticed. You, maintenance worker. The voice made Jinnah freeze. She turned slowly to face an Eternal One. It was taller than most, with deep blue patterns across its crystal surface. Yes, sir? Jinnah kept her eyes down. The environmental controls in Sector 7 are malfunctioning. Fix them immediately. Jinnah nodded and followed the alien's directions. This might be lucky. Sector 7 could be where they kept human subjects. The alien led her to a room filled with complicated machinery. Repair the temperature regulation. It must remain at exactly 19 degrees for the specimens. Yes, sir, Jinnah said again. When the alien left, she quickly found the problem with the temperature controls and fixed it. Then she looked around the room. Large glass containers lined the walls. Some held humans floating in clear liquid. Jinnah felt sick, but forced herself to keep looking. At the far end of the room, she spotted a smaller container. Inside was a young boy, maybe 10 years old. Unlike the others, he was awake and sitting up. Jinnah moved closer, pretending to check nearby systems. The boy watched her with dark, alert eyes. He didn't look afraid, which was strange. Most humans were terrified of the laboratories. Are you here to take more blood? The boy asked suddenly. Jinnah glanced around to make sure no aliens were nearby. No, she whispered. I'm fixing the air system. What's your name? Minho, the boy replied. They take my blood every day. They don't like what it does to them. Jinnah's heart beat faster. This must be the special child Yeji mentioned. What does your blood do to them? Minho smiled slightly. It hurts them. When my blood touches them, their crystals turn black and crack. That's why they keep me in here behind glass. Before Jinnah could ask more questions, she heard the sound of aliens approaching. She quickly moved back to the temperature controls and pretended to work. 2 Eternal Ones entered, followed by a human in a white coat. The human looked nervous as he approached Minho's container. Begin the extraction, one alien commanded. The human nodded and opened a small panel on Minho's container. The boy rolled up his sleeve without being asked. This had happened many times before. Jinnah watched from the corner of her eye as they took several tubes of Minho's blood. The alien stayed far from the procedure, keeping their distance from the blood. Process it immediately, the second alien ordered. The degradation continues to accelerate. We need results. After they left, Jinnah finished her repairs quickly. She needed to tell Do-hyun and Yeji what she had learned. As she was leaving, she passed by Minho's container again. I'll come back, she whispered to him. Minho nodded. I know. That night, Jinnah met Do-hyun and Yeji in their hidden room. She told them everything she had seen and heard. The boy's blood damages their crystal bodies, Do-hyun said thoughtfully. If we could understand how it works, we might be able to improve our device. We need to rescue him, Jinnah insisted. They're hurting him and he might be our best weapon against them. Yeji looked worried. The three of us can't break into a high-security laboratory. We need help. I know someone who might help us, Do-hyun said after a long pause. But it's risky. He was a commander in the old resistance. If he's still alive, he might have other fighters with him. The next day, Do-hyun led Jina through a maze of abandoned buildings in District 3. This area had been damaged during the initial invasion and never fully repaired. Few people lived here, which made it perfect for hiding. They entered an old subway station. The tunnels had collapsed years ago, but the main hall was still intact. Do-hyun knocked on a wall in a special pattern. After a moment, a hidden door opened. A man with a gun stepped out. He was older, maybe in his 60s, with gray hair and hard eyes. He pointed the weapon at Jina. "Who is she?" he demanded. "Hwan Park's daughter," Do-hyun answered. "She has information, Taewon. Information that could change everything." The old man, Taewon, studied Jina's face. "You look like your father," he finally said. "Come inside, quickly." The hidden door led to a large area that had once been a maintenance room for the subway. Now it was filled with people, about 20 men and women of different ages. Some were cleaning weapons, others were working with computers that humans weren't supposed to have. "This is what's left of the resistance in this sector," Taewon explained. "Not much, but we're still fighting." Jina showed them her father's device and explained what she had learned about the Eternal Ones. She told them about Minho and his special blood that damaged the aliens' crystal bodies. "If what you're saying is true," Taewon said slowly, "we might finally have a chance. But we need to test your device first, and we need the boy." Over the next week, Jina and Do-hyun worked with the resistant scientists to improve the frequency device. Using her father's notes, they built a small working model. Now they needed to test it on an actual Eternal One. Yeji continued working as a cleaner in the laboratory, watching Minho and learning the guards' schedules. She discovered that Minho was being moved to a different facility in 3 days. "We have to act now," Taewon decided, "before they move him." The plan was dangerous but simple. Yeji would create a distraction in one part of the laboratory. While the guards were busy, a small team would enter through a maintenance door that Jina would unlock. They would take Minho and any other children they could free, then escape through the old sewer tunnels that ran under the city. The night before the rescue, Jina couldn't sleep. She sat with Do-hyun, checking the frequency device one last time. "Are you afraid?" she asked him. Do-hyun nodded. "Yes, but I'm also hopeful for the first time in years." He hesitated, then added, "Your father would be proud of you." Jina felt tears in her eyes. "I just want to finish what he started. I want a world where humans are free again." Do-hyun took her hand. In that small moment of connection, Jina felt strength returning to her heart. Whatever happened tomorrow, they would face it together. The rescue mission began at midday, when the laboratory was busiest. Yeji started a fire in the storage area, setting off alarms throughout the facility. Guards rushed to contain the problem. Jina, wearing her maintenance uniform, opened the side entrance for Taewon and 5 resistance fighters. Do-hyun stayed outside with the escape vehicle, ready to take them to safety. "We have 10 minutes, at most," Taewon warned as they moved through the hallways. "Get the boy and get out." Jina led them to Sector 7. 2 guards remained at the door, but they were distracted by the alarms. Taewon and his fighters took them down quickly and quietly. Inside, Jina ran to Minho's container. The boy was waiting, as if he knew they were coming. "Stand back," Jina told him as she worked on the container's lock. After a minute, the glass door slid open. Minho stepped out looking small but unafraid. "There are other children," he said, pointing to a door at the back of the room. Taewon nodded to 2 of his fighters. "Get them. Fast." As they moved to free the other children, an alarm different from the fire alert began to sound. They had been discovered. "Run!" Taewon shouted. Jina grabbed Minho's hand, and they raced for the exit. Jina ran through the laboratory hallways, holding Minho's small hand tightly. Behind them, Taewon and 2 fighters carried 3 more children they had freed. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed along the walls. "This way," Jinnah called, turning down a narrow service corridor. She knew all the maintenance routes from her work in the building. They reached a heavy metal door that led to the outside. Jinnah pushed it open, and they burst into daylight. Do-hyun was waiting with an old truck, engine running. "Hurry," he shouted. Suddenly the air filled with a high-pitched sound. 3 eternal ones appeared at the corner of the building, their crystal bodies glowing bright with anger. "Get the children to the truck," Taewon ordered. He raised his weapon and fired at the aliens. The bullets did little damage, only chipping small pieces from their bodies. Jinnah helped Minho and the other children into the back of the truck. The fighters followed, but Taewon stayed behind, still firing at the approaching eternal ones. "Taewon, come on!" Jinnah shouted. The old commander shook his head. "Get them to safety," he called back. "I'll hold these monsters off." Do-hyun started the truck moving. Jinnah watched through the back window as Taewon threw something at the aliens, a small explosive device. The blast knocked them back, giving the truck time to speed away. But Taewon was caught in the explosion too. Jinnah saw him fall as the truck turned a corner and the laboratory disappeared from view. "He saved us," Do-hyun said quietly, his hands tight on the steering wheel. He knew he wouldn't make it. Jinnah felt tears on her face but wiped them away quickly. The children were watching her, looking for strength. "We need to get back to the base," she said. "Taewon would want us to keep going." They drove through back streets and abandoned areas, avoiding Eternal One's patrols. When they finally reached the subway station hideout, Yeji was already there, having escaped through a different route. The resistance members quickly took the children to a safe area where they could rest. Minho stayed with Jinnah, watching everything with his serious eyes. "What will happen now?" he asked her. Jinnah knelt in front of him. "We're going to try to save everyone, and you're going to help us." That night, the resistance held a meeting to plan their next steps. Without Taewon, they looked to Jinnah and Do-hyun for leadership. Many were scared. Some wanted to hide deeper, to run away from the cities completely. "We can't run anymore," Jinnah told them. "The Eternal Ones won't stop until they've taken everything from us. But now we have 2 weapons they don't expect." She held up the frequency device. "This can disrupt their crystal structures, and..." She put her hand on Minho's shoulder. "We have something in human blood that can destroy them." Do-hyun stepped forward. "We need to combine these 2 things. The frequency device can weaken them and Minho's blood can finish the job. But we can't use just one boy's blood to fight all of them," someone pointed out. Jinnah nodded. "That's why we need to understand what makes Minho's blood special. If we can find that out, maybe we can create more of whatever hurts them." For the next week, the resistance worked day and night. The scientists examined Minho's blood under microscopes. They had stolen from human medical facilities. Jinnah and Do-hyun continued improving the frequency device, making it stronger and more focused. They discovered that Minho had a rare genetic mutation. His blood produced an enzyme that attacked crystal structures. It was completely harmless to humans but deadly to the Eternal Ones. "Can we copy this enzyme?" Jinnah asked one of the scientists. The woman nodded slowly. "Maybe. We would need better equipment, but it might be possible to create a synthetic version." As they worked, Jinnah noticed that the other rescued children were recovering from their time in the laboratory. They played together and helped with small tasks around the base. Minho became their unofficial leader, always calm and brave despite his young age. One night, as Jinnah was working late on the frequency device, Do-hyun brought her some food. "You need to rest," he told her. "You've barely slept in days." Jinnah took the bowl of rice and vegetables. "I can't stop thinking about what they're planning. The files said they need millions of humans for their final solution. What if they start the mass harvesting soon?" Do-hyun sat beside her. "That's why we're working so hard. But killing yourself with exhaustion won't help." Jinnah smiled slightly. "You sound like my father. He used to work for days without stopping and my mother would scold him." "Your parents would be proud of what you're doing," Do-hyun said softly. He hesitated, then added, "I'm proud to work beside you." For a moment, They sat in comfortable silence. In another world, this might have been the beginning of something more. But in this world, survival came first. Their moment was interrupted when Yeji burst into the room. "They're looking for us," she said, her voice tight with fear. "The Eternal Ones have increased patrols everywhere. They're searching all districts for Minho and the other children." "They must know what we discovered," Jinna said. "They know Minho's blood is dangerous to them." The next day brought worse news. The Resistance had informants in different districts who sent secret messages when they could. These messages now reported that the Eternal Ones were taking more humans than ever before. Whole families were disappearing from their homes. "It's starting," Jinna realized with horror. "The mass harvesting, they're accelerating their plans." A Resistance fighter who worked in communications brought more information. "They're building something in the old Incheon area, a huge facility with broadcast towers. My sources say they're creating a worldwide network to connect all their bases." Do-hyun's eyes widened. "That's it. That's how we can reach all of them at once. If they're building a network that connects to all Eternal Ones globally, we can use it to transmit our frequency." Jinna immediately understood. "We could send the disruption signal through their own communication system. It would reach every Eternal One on Earth simultaneously." Hope spread through the room as the Resistance members realized what this meant. They could strike at all the aliens at once, not just a few at a time, but the scientist had bad news about Minho's enzyme. "We can reproduce it, but not quickly enough, and we have no way to distribute it globally." Jinna thought for a moment. "What if we convert it to a form that can be carried by sound waves? Could the frequency transmitter carry the enzyme pattern as well?" The lead scientist looked surprised. "In theory, yes. The molecular structure could be encoded into the frequency itself, but it would require incredible precision." Jinna turned to Do-hyun. "Can we do it?" He nodded slowly. "With the right equipment, yes. But we would need access to the main transmission facility in Incheon. We would have to go to the heart of their new operation." Jinna looked around at the Resistance members, at the children they had saved, at Minho watching her with those knowing eyes. The plan was forming in her mind, dangerous and desperate, but possibly their only chance. "Then that's what we'll do," she said. "We'll take the fight to them." The plan to infiltrate the Incheon facility took 2 weeks to prepare. The Resistance gathered information, collected equipment, and trained for the mission. Jinna rarely slept, working constantly on the frequency device with Do-hyun. "The device is ready," Jinna said finally, holding the small metal box in her hands. Inside was the combined work of her father, the Resistance scientists, and herself. A machine that could send destructive frequencies tuned to the exact structure of the Eternal One's bodies. "And we've encoded Minho's enzyme pattern into the signal," Do-hyun added. "If it works, the frequency will carry the enzyme formula to every Eternal One on the planet through their own network." Jinna looked around the room at the Resistance members. "We only get one chance at this. Once we activate the device at their main facility, they'll know what we're doing. We'll have minutes, maybe seconds, to complete the transmission." The biggest problem was that someone would have to stay at the facility to make sure the transmission went through completely. It would be a one-way mission. "I'll do it," Jinna said quietly when they discussed this part of the plan. Do-hyun immediately shook his head. "No, I'll go. You're needed here to lead the Resistance afterward." "It has to be me," Jinna insisted. "I understand the device better than anyone. I can make adjustments if something goes wrong." They argued about it for days, but eventually, Do-hyun accepted that Jinna was right. She was the only one who fully understood how the frequency device worked. The night before the mission, Jinna recorded everything she knew about the Eternal Ones and the Resistance's plans. She saved the information on multiple devices and gave them to different Resistance members. "If something happens to me," she told them, "this information will help you continue the fight." Later, she found Minho sitting alone, looking at an old book about space. "Are you afraid?" he asked when she sat beside him. Jinna nodded. "Yes. But sometimes being brave means doing important things even when you're scared." Minho closed his book. "My blood will help kill them, won't it? The bad ones who took me." Yes. Your special blood is the key to saving everyone. The boy thought about this, then nodded. Good. My parents said I was special. Now I know why. Jinnah felt tears in her eyes as she hugged the brave child. Early the next morning, the resistance team moved out. They traveled in small groups to avoid detection, meeting at an abandoned warehouse near the Incheon facility. Jinnah, Dohyun, and Yeji were in the final group to arrive. The storm helps us, Dohyun said, looking at the dark clouds overhead. A rare atmospheric disturbance was moving through the area, with lightning and heavy rain. It will disrupt their sensors. The plan was simple but dangerous. Yeji and a small team would create a distraction at the east entrance. Dohyun would lead another team to secure an escape route. Jinnah, carrying the frequency device, would enter through a maintenance tunnel and reach the central communication array. We'll give you 30 minutes to reach the center and set up the device, Dohyun told Jinnah. Then we start the distraction. Before they separated, Dohyun took Jinnah's hand. I wish, he started, then stopped. I wish we had met in a different world. Jinnah squeezed his hand. Maybe we will in the next one. Yeji hugged her brother and Jinnah. Good luck, she whispered. Jinnah moved through the rain to the maintenance tunnel entrance. Using tools she had carried as a repair worker for years, she opened the access panel and slipped inside. The tunnel was dark and narrow, but she knew where to go. The resistance had studied the facility plans for days. After 20 minutes of careful movement, Jinnah reached the central area of the facility. Through small windows, she could see Eternal Ones moving around a large room filled with communication equipment. In the center was a crystal tower that pulsed with blue light, the main transmitter for their worldwide network. Jinnah checked the frequency device one last time. Everything was ready. Now she needed to reach the central tower and connect their device to it. She waited, counting the minutes until the distraction would begin. When she reached 30, a loud explosion shook the building. Warning alarm sounded, and most of the Eternal Ones rushed from the room toward the commotion. Jinnah moved quickly, entering the central chamber and running to the crystal tower. She had almost reached it when a voice spoke directly into her mind. Human. Stop. Jinnah turned slowly. An Eternal One stood watching her. It was different from the others she had seen, larger, with complex patterns flowing through its crystal body. Instead of the usual blue glow, it shone with multiple colors. You are the daughter of Hwan Park, the voice said in her head. I am the Eternal Prime. I have existed for millions of your years. Jinnah held the frequency device tightly. You know who I am. We have been watching you. You are interesting. Unlike most humans, you see beyond your limited lifespan. Jinnah took a step back, moving closer to the crystal tower. You've been killing us, harvesting us. We are preserving ourselves. It is natural for a superior species to use lesser ones for survival. The Eternal Prime moved closer. You do not need to die, Jinnah Park. I can offer you what your kind has always wanted. Immortality. You could live for thousands of years. See the stars. Learn the secrets of the universe. As it spoke, Jinnah saw images in her mind, herself living for centuries, watching human civilization grow under the guidance of the Eternal Ones. She saw herself young and healthy, long after everyone she knew had died of old age. And if I refuse? She asked, fighting against the beautiful visions. Then you will die here. But first you might want to see these. New images appeared in Jinnah's mind. She saw two humans in a strange glass container. They were older now, but she recognized them immediately. Mother. Father. Jinnah whispered. They are alive. We have preserved them for study. Their minds are intact. They can be returned to you. Jinnah felt her resolve weakening. Her parents, alive after all these years, the chance to see them again, to speak with them. Then she heard shouting and saw movement below the central platform. Through a glass floor panel, she could see children being moved through the facility, dozens of them in small containers, They were unconscious with tubes connected to their small bodies. More humans waited in larger tanks, adults and teenagers. The sight broke the Eternal Prime's spell. Jinnah remembered why she was there, not just for her parents or herself, but for all humans, for their future. "No," she said firmly. "You're lying. Even if my parents are alive, they would never want freedom at this price." Jinnah turned and ran the final steps to the Crystal Tower. The Eternal Prime moved with surprising speed, reaching for her with a crystalline arm that suddenly extended. Jinnah dodged and slammed the frequency device against the tower. It connected with a clicking sound, lights blinking as it powered on. She quickly entered the activation code. "What are you doing?" The Eternal Prime's voice was no longer calm but filled with alarm. "Ending your eternal life," Jinnah answered, pressing the final button. The device hummed, connecting to the Crystal Tower. The transmission began, sending the destructive frequency and Minho's enzyme pattern through the Eternal One's worldwide network. The Eternal Prime rushed forward, but it was too late. The frequency spread through the Crystal Tower and into the alien's body. Small cracks appeared on its surface, spreading like spider webs. "You cannot." The voice in Jinnah's head grew weaker. All around her, the facility's crystal components began to crack. Through the windows, she could see other Eternal Ones falling, their bodies breaking apart. The Eternal Prime made one final lunge at Jinnah. She grabbed a metal tool from her belt and swung it hard at the weakened crystal being. The alien shattered into thousands of pieces, falling like glittering dust to the floor. Jinnah felt the heat before she saw it. The frequency device was overloading, just as they had predicted. The radiation would spread throughout the room within minutes. She had no time to escape. Jinnah smiled, thinking of Do-hyun, Yeji, Minho, and all the others who would now have a chance at freedom. She thought of her parents, hoping that if they were truly alive somewhere, they would be proud of what she had done. "We won," she whispered as the light grew brighter around her. Outside the facility, Do-hyun watched in awe as blue light shot into the sky from the central tower. The light spread outward in waves, reaching toward the horizon in all directions. All around him, the Eternal Ones were falling, their bodies cracking and dissolving. "She did it," Yeji said, tears in her eyes. "Jinnah did it." They waited as long as they could, hoping she would emerge from the facility. But when the central tower finally collapsed in a shower of crystal dust, they knew she was gone. The resistance fighters returned to their base, bringing news of victory. The Eternal Ones were defeated, not just in Incheon, but all over the world. According to reports coming in from other resistance cells, humans were free again. Years passed. The world began to rebuild. Do-hyun, Yeji, and Minho led the new government that formed from the resistance. They made sure everyone knew the story of Jinnah Park, the ordinary repair worker who had saved humanity. They built a memorial where the Incheon facility had once stood. It was simple, a stone with words carved into it. She was powerless. They were eternal. Now she is legend. On the anniversary of the liberation each year, people gathered at the memorial, Nap Liao,